Hello everyone, I'm Delta and welcome to my build tutorial for a Halo Biofoam Canister Kit from DeltaAlphaZulu, no relation. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you what you'll receive in the kit, how to finish the raw print if you so choose, how to assemble the prop, and finally show a demonstration on ways to weather this prop and give it more detail and depth. My video intro is a work in progress and not yet complete, so pretend there's something cool going on here, and if you have any suggestions for this, let me know in the comments below. Thanks. This first section is mainly for beginners to prop and cosplay making, who have yet to really start to invest in this making world that most of us seasoned makers already know and love. So if you're new, I highly recommend sticking around for this part. If you're seasoned, you can just jump to the next chapter, or stick around and hear my words of caution. This prop is 100% what I'd recommend for a first prop as you get started into the world of 3D printed Halo props and cosplay. This tutorial will build almost all of the finishing skills to make better looking props and armor, as well as give you an inexpensive test to see if you enjoy this kind of making before you invest time and several $100s into printers, filament, higher detailed STLs, and the like. This is by far the easiest prop to finish. A full, well-done set of armor is much more labor-intensive and difficult to finish than this is. If you want to start building armor, I would highly recommend starting with EVA foam builds like this one from Andrew DFT, which is linked in the description below. I would also recommend signing up for the 405th cosplay community. I have never met a nicer group of people that are so willing to help others starting out. So now that I've gone over that, let's get started with the making. So the first thing you'll need to do is to hop onto Etsy using the link in the description below to purchase your kit from Delta's shop. Let them know I sent you. Also, while you're there, take a look at his other kits ranging from Halo assault rifles, DMRs, and BRs to some of the UNSC's heaviest ordnances like rocket launchers and Spartan lasers. Most of his props have some sort of moving parts, from rifles having moving slides and removable magazines to the rocket launcher having a rotating and removable rocket pod. He also has a bunch of kits from other games like Deep Rock Galactic and Cyberpunk. He models, prints, and ships all of these kits personally, and the hard work really shows. Pretty much as soon as you make your order, he begins printing your kit, and it's his goal to always have any prop order shipped within 2 weeks, but a majority of the time it's shipped within a week. He ships worldwide, and in the unfortunate circumstance you have any issues with your order, Delta is very easy to get a hold of and correct any issue within his power. While you wait on your kit to arrive, I recommend you purchase the supplies you'll need to finish this prop. At a minimum, you'll need either super glue or an epoxy to assemble it, and any color you want the prop to be. If you want to follow this tutorial to the letter, have a better finish, and practice finishing techniques, I'd recommend these supplies. For the finishing process, you'll need Bondo glazing and spot putty, available at most automotive stores, 2-in-1 automotive filler primer, available at most automotive and hardware stores, and a variety of sandpaper. If you're using my method, I recommend having 220, 800, and 2000 grit sandpaper, the latter two being capable of wet sanding. I also recommend buying or using a 5-gallon bucket for wet sanding to conserve water, but a sink will work as well. For spray painting the base colors, I'll be using Krylon Matte Spanish Moss for the body and Rust-Oleum Universal Matte Gunmetal Gray for every other component. I highly recommend using these higher quality paints due to how well they lay down and how they tend to bond in more adverse conditions than Krylon and Rust-Oleum's standard line of paints. Anytime you use fillers or paint that let off harsh fumes, you should work in a well-ventilated area and use proper personal protective equipment. While using spot putty and spray paint in the video, I will be using a proper respirator and disposable gloves. For assembly, I highly recommend JB Weld Plastic Bonder, available at most hardware, automotive, and craft stores. And finally, for the weathering process, you'll need Krylon Metallic Silver Spray Paint. You'll also need an array of acrylic paints depending on how you want to customize your prop. For this we use red, black, yellow, gray, white, brown, and tan. Also, for applying the acrylic paint, you'll need a pack of small brushes and some natural sponges. I'd also recommend having something to use as a disposable palette, such as a paper plate or a piece of cardboard scrap. Now after a bit of a wait, your package will arrive and contain the following: the main body, removable cap, handle, injector, wooden dowel pin, and the 2 lever components of the canister. You'll also receive an envelope with stickers for some extra detail for the canister. In addition, to show his appreciation for your business, Delta also includes a thank you letter and a 3D printed maker coin with his logo on it. We'll start off the finishing process by spreading spot putty evenly on all the components of the biofoam container. I recommend being careful not to fill in the large details on the injector and the slots where the handle fits into it. If you want to keep the embossed logos and lettering, be careful not to fill them with spot putty. In this example, I'll be filling them in and using stencils to paint them back on later. Once all the parts are coated with spot putty, allow it to dry for several minutes. Once the spot putty is dried, sand it using 220 grit sandpaper. Spot putty sands easily, so be careful not to sand too hard and get back under the print lines. Once all the components are sanded, wipe the parts down with some sort of cloth or paper towel. Inspect the prop for any low spots and reapply more spot putty to fill them. While using spot putty in this way, there will be some small lines and pinholes that will appear while sanding. I typically will leave them to add a bit of detail, but if you want an absolutely flawless finish, you can repeat the putty and sanding process as many times as you want until your desired level of finish is achieved. At this point, make sure to wipe off all sanding dust before beginning painting. Our next finishing process will be to coat our parts with 2-in-1 sandable fillable primer. While painting this product, make sure to use medium coats with a few minutes between each coat. With this filler primer, you'll want to spray on a few more coats than you would with regular paint to fill in what's left of the small imperfections in your prop. Allow adequate time for the primer to dry before sanding. Due to the current cold weather where I live, I'll wait a few extra hours just to be sure. Once the primer is dry, I'll fill up my 5-gallon bucket about halfway with water, pull up a chair, and begin sanding. I'll start wet sanding with 800 grit sandpaper, making sure to use circular or figure 8 motions. As you sand, it's a good idea to feel the part with the finger just to check and make sure if you've missed any spots. Once I'm done with the 800 grit sandpaper, I'll move on to 2000 grit sandpaper. Using this method, you'll end up with a smooth, metal-like finish. Once all the sanding is done, let the components dry completely before moving on to paint. I'll begin painting all of the injector components with the gunmetal gray and the main canister components with the Spanish moss green. Make sure to use several light coats, waiting the recommended time between coats as outlined on your spray paint can. Once your parts are painted to your liking, allow the paint to dry. I recommend letting them dry overnight. On to assembly. Gather all your parts, the plastic bonder, epoxy, and some cardboard from the box that your kit arrived in. Begin dispensing and mixing the epoxy with a small brush on a piece of cardboard or a paper plate as shown here. Once the epoxy is mixed, we'll assemble the injector and handle by taking a bit of the epoxy and brushing it into the gaps on the injector. Then insert the handle into the gaps, making sure to place it in the right orientation. Next, we'll assemble the lever components, making sure to pay attention and connect them in the proper orientation. The end with the nub should face away from the slot, and the length left exposed on the plate should be greater than that covered by the lever. These components will need to be set up on uneven surfaces to cure. I used a package of sandpaper, but you can use the cardboard from the box that your kit arrived in. While waiting for the lever and plate to bond, attach the injector to the main body using the included dowel pin. In this build, I designed and used nesting pins instead of the included dowel pin to get a better finish. Once the plate and lever are fused and do not move, connect the plate to the flat spot on the container with the lever facing upwards towards the injector. Due to filling in the embossed details, I cut out stencils to paint them back on before weathering. I use a Cricut vinyl cutter for this to paint them back on with white paint in the locations where they were filled in. This is also a good time to place your included stickers on the side or sides of the canister. We decided to place one sticker on each side of the canister. Now with assembly complete, we can give this prop a story with weathering. We'll start adding scratches to our prop using the dry brushing method. To do this, spray the silver spray paint on a paper plate or cardboard and dab into it using a stiff, bristled brush. Then begin lightly dragging the brush across the prop anywhere you want it to be scuffed and scratched. Good areas for this technique are edges and anything that sticks out from the prop. You can also add large areas of silver and then add black acrylic paint over them to give the appearance of heavier or deeper abrasions. Once you have the prop scratched to your liking, we'll start adding dirt and grime using a sponge, paper towels, black or brown paint, and water. Begin adding a bit of black acrylic paint to the sponge, then dipping it in water, followed by lightly and gently brushing it across the prop. You can then use your fingers to disturb and wipe the paint in different directions, giving the appearance of random grime buildup. Once you've finished with the black paint, you can move on to brown for the appearance of dirt and dust. There is no solid rule to these techniques, they're mainly up to the maker's interpretations. Feel free to make the prop as clean or damaged as you like, it'll look great either way. And with weathering complete, that brings this tutorial to a close. Now you should have a great looking Halo Biofoam container and a skill set that'll help you add depth and grit to any prop or cosplay you make. If you have enjoyed watching and crafting with this tutorial, let me know in the comments. If you want to stay up to date on my builds and projects, check out my thread on the 405th, linked in the description below. And if you enjoyed making this prop, join the 405th forums and start a thread for your builds. I'd love to see them. The next tutorials that I will be doing are NerdForge Designs Halo Reach ODST helmet and DeltaAlphaZulu Halo 3 sniper rifle. I have several progress videos for the ODST helmet on my channel already, with more to come. Like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to see as soon as I put out new content. This is just the beginning and it's going to get a lot crazier from here.